What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Trey in the building. Shout out to everyone that's been subbing up, helping me get to 2K subs. I appreciate that. But you know, the horses don't stop, they keep going. So I want to set the goal road to 10K by the end of 2026. You know what I'm saying? I gotta put the work in, though. I gotta grind for that. You know what I mean? And we're gonna take it step by step, 2,500. 3K, 3,500, 4K, etc., etc. We're gonna work on small goals, but the big goal, the big picture is 10K by the end of the year. But now that I got that out the way, we got thinking basketball when the box score lies. There's a picture of Cade on this. I'm expecting some Detroit talk. That's what I want to hear. You know what I'm saying? They've been cooking, bro. So really, you know what I'm saying? Let's just see what's going on, bro.
We've been examining players through these deep single game studies, and Cade Cunningham's 4 of 17 performance against Boston felt like a microcosm of 2026 Cade. And it's one of these games where everyone assumes the star player was terrible because he had subpar scoring stats. This is the kind of play you might not notice just casually watching, but Cade's man is down behind the action. He pushes it quickly and spots a defender sliding over to help. So early no-look pass to create a little more space. That's subtle, but it leads to a better shot. And Cade's quick to push even off makes and find openings with these simple but effective hit-ahead passes. Detroit's on the slow side, but with Cade, they're slightly above average in offensive pace. This push collapses the entire defense and leads to a wide open shot. And again, look at how early he throws some of these passes in transition. This is a 2-on-2. He senses Derek White pulled in to help, passes at the logo to give Jaden Ivey a runway that's subtle but effective. And this was a few minutes earlier. The Ivey a runway that's subtle.
Dang. That's a back shot,
but effective. And this was a few minutes earlier. The rebound and spinning outlet to spring the 3-on-1. And not only is that a difficult play to make for most players, but this play really starts with a defensive read. He's watching the pick and roll. Jalen Duren moves back out of the way, but Cade doesn't come to help. He's trusting Duren here to recover without having to come into the play, tracks the ball off the rim, and the spin and that intention to push really make this whole thing happen. We'll talk about his defensive reads in a second, but first I want to look at this key play late in the fourth quarter, where again, it doesn't really look like Cade's doing much here, but this initial action's walled off with Boston.
Bro, he's getting a it looked very casual, but it's such easy, like smooth dimes.
Just ignoring Asar Thompson. So Cade shoots it to Asar. There's traffic in the lane and not much there for him. And now if Cade remain idle, they're just stuck. But he can work off this screen from Duncan Robinson. Peyton Pritchard wants to avoid the switch because Cunningham's so big, and then it's a pretty perfect pass to the corner. These plays are simple but effective. Really similar situation in the first half. A little re-space to stretch out the defender, quick show and go on the catch, and then another early and fast pass on target. And originally, he's coming back.
Bro, this is the thing, right? I really don't watch basketball games. I don't even watch like the NBA highlights of the game. You know what I'm saying? I don't be watching ball, bro, but I fuck with basketball. You know what I'm saying? I'm a very casual fan, bro. So when I see someone doing something, you know what I'm saying, I fuck with it, bro. That's why, even those nerd highlights, I really enjoy that, bro. Like the ins and outs of the game. Cade's gonna be up there for me, bro. You know what I'm saying? He's that next generation of players, for one, Bron, Curry, KD, Harden, Russ, all of them retired. You know what I'm saying? Cade, and it'll be some good hands, bro.
To get the ball here, but as Karis LeVert cuts toward the big, Cade reacts and spaces out to the wing. Maybe he's a beat slow to realize he needs to make that move, but this little re-space does the trick. Now, here, I do think he can attack the basket without a big man on the strong side.
One thing, though, I feel like Derek White has been he's not really playing the lanes too much.
Passive. I'd love a rim attempt there over a 36% three. Compare that to this play where Cade chases the ball for a handoff and he uses his size and strength against a smaller player. Detroit actually loves this series for him where he hits a guard on the sideline like this and runs after it. The switch kills it here, but he instantly hits Robinson on the pop. That's another quick pass, creating a shot or advantage. Then he works off ball to get it back for a little sideline pick and roll. And this is his bread and butter right here, using tempo to grind closer to the rim. So if we go back, first, I've never seen a triple screen. This
is like goddamn flow state. I was going to say something about that, bro. That's crazy, bro. Look at all this goddamn space over here. This is insane. But he's just flowing, bro. He's letting the game come to him, bro. And that when someone just lets the game come to them, bro, and lets it all work naturally, this Detroit team seems dangerous, bro.
Hilarious, but Cade waits for the screen to make contact so he can get Pritchard on his hip, then uses the threat to pass to Duren to freeze the big defender, strong escape dribble, and an easy little shot. And that happens because Cade's lethal in that spot with a lob
mid-range
threat.
Players
he cuts
are
off the defender to keep him behind him, and then nothing looks open here, but he just uses the vertical space. And less than a minute later, we're back to the pick and roll. He gets Jalen on his hip. Asar sneaks baseline, and I think he can throw this earlier, but it's still pretty money, only they don't call the foul. A few more examples of passing and chasing in the first quarter. He doesn't get it back, but he's inside Hugo Gonzalez's body and uses that strength to claim the space and the rebound. And this was another one where he didn't get it back, slowed up a touch before sprinting into space. The pass is a little low, but an elite vertical athlete is still going up here, although Cade never actually tries it. So this is a few times now we've seen his lack of high-end vertical finishing around the basket. This one was almost a turnover, still ends up with a wide open shot for Detroit because of Cade's downhill pressure. And he has great command on this play. The crossover to Shed Brown, then slows up briefly with White nearby, only to accelerate again into space, but just doesn't trust the finishing near Derek White. Cade's drive efficiency is in the 62nd percentile this year, but he's just
I feel like if he wanted to, bro, he could be more aggressive. But I feel like that was very passive. He could have made that for sure.
The 21st percentile in rim field goal percentage, and he forces the issue next time, and well, there's White. So the finishing around the rim isn't elite, but he's big and smart and exerts pressure, which means tons of free throws. He actually took 10 in this game, and check out this sequence near the end of the half. Touch pass, followed by yet another Detroit rebound. Cade's quick to that loose ball, then destroys Brown on that move, and so Kraft gets him to the free throw line here. Another component to a dribble drive game is that burst of speed off the bounce, and Cade doesn't really lose defenders like that. Instead, it's this little hesitation move that finally sheds Jordan Walsh, and it's a hang dribble that actually freezes Walsh, then the strength to plow through any contact, and a nice aerial adjustment to use the left. I also like this one in the fourth against ball screen pressure. Pauses, keeps the dribble, stops and crosses, then finishes with a little hop step fade. I think that's a good shot for him. Sometimes you miss those, and sometimes an effect is harder to notice. He runs right to the post in transition. That draws extra defense from the Celtics. That little jab from Luka Garza lets Jalen Duren get really deep rebounding position. So Cade's threat to score actually leads to that bucket for Detroit. Today, on defense, Cade was matched up with Derek White, not Boston's primary weapon, Jaylen Brown. Although on the very first play, he switched onto Jalen, uses his strength and size, tracks the spin, and great contest.
That's a great matchup, JB and Cade.
Now, unlike other players we've examined in this series for members, this was a high-usage defensive game from Cade. He was involved in a number of sequences containing the ball at the point of attack like this, or switching onto skilled players and using his size to jam Brown's screen here in order to help Duren out. And we've mentioned Cade's strength. This was quite the stand, sliding and bumping with Brown, backpedaling and nearly stealing it, and that's absurd strength from Jalen to finish. But in the third, Cade gets some revenge, stonewalling the fast break with a near steal, then a very nice physical slide on that drive, some more great footwork to stay with Jalen on the shot. Early in the game, they met again in transition, one-on-one, and a big foul from Cade. Yeah. And I thought Cunningham not squaring his hips toward the ball here was a bit strange. He does try to pull the chair out of the way, which is his move, but he doesn't really recover and misses the swipe badly. Now, in the second quarter, Boston's in transition. Cade's position between the corner shooter and Walsh reacts instantly to the loose ball and makes this bonkers play at the rim. Originally called a foul, but it was overturned because that's an amazing block after a great read and react rotation. Some of Cade's best plays in this game came from his team defense. You don't even notice it happen so fast, but this is a 3-on-2 for the Celtics. Cade first needs to worry about the ball, then as the dribble's picked up, he sprints to the shooter and saves an open three. Hard to put a point value on actions like that, but instead of a 45% triple, it's a half-court possession and a turnover. 2 minutes later, it's another drive to the rim. Very makeable for him, but he's frustrated with the no call. So when they come back in transition, I think he's a little out of it and doesn't go to pick up Hauser, then sends Robinson to switch so he can peel off to the corner. But compare that to the level of focus on this play. He starts in the corner, sprints to get in front of the ball while telling Tobias Harris to move out to the perimeter, and that makes the three just a little bit harder. But if Cade doesn't do that, Boston's going to have a 4-on-2, and at worst, Pritchard or Sam Hauser end up with a wide open look. So he's identifying vulnerabilities really quickly. Right here, he's trying to tell Duren to guard the ball. Cade's so on top of the issue that he lingers to stay near Pritchard and has a chance to close to Hauser, who's just a flamethrower. And here's another example of Cade's awareness. A little dig at Brown, again, not the most accurate hands in the world. Then on this rebound situation, Cade is reading Neemias Queta's options while guarding two Celtics. He tracks the ball back to Pritchard, and then this is masterful defense. We get that same backpedaling technique with his hands down and his size, length, and anticipation just shut off the water there for Pritchard and Boston. Okay, check this out. Cade's on Brown here and registers that Duren is switched onto a guard. So when this shot goes through, he immediately wants the ball to exploit that mismatch. Only Duren doesn't realize what's happening. So Cade tells him run to the post, but Duren's a little bit slow. Boston's actually switching the guard out here. So this would be a layup if Duren sees what Cade sees. Now, Cade didn't see everything in this game. Boston's pulled way over here, and I think the corner pass is probably best. Instead, it's a basic dish to a weaker shooter. A minute later, it's the same thing, really. Celtics basically ignore that corner. Cade goes with the contested middle instead of the pass. Boston's strategy this game was to ignore weaker shooters and just dare him to shoot. Two guys on Cade, he makes the basic pass, and that leads to a big shot in the fourth. And they even helped off the corner to wall him up, and he snaps it to Javonte Green, who drills another one. So Boston ignored shooters, which meant they weren't trapping the ball screens, except to start the second half, they surprised Cade with a trap, and that led to a really sloppy pass. But this play earlier jumped out to me. The big is dropped way off, Brown's chasing Cunningham, and Cade puts the ball over his head and thinks about Robinson, and that ball fake opens up Asar Thompson for a second, but Cade misses him. And this overhead passing and ball faking is something Cade does a ton against certain pick and roll coverages. So against Denver, the Nuggets sent two defenders to Cade, and he uses an overhead pass, often with a jump to get a better passing angle over the top. And he's manipulating defenders by turning and looking at different targets. So when he has two defenders on him, even if he's walled off, that overhead look to the wing moves this defender if he's not careful, and the misdirection even holds the low man defender. And so we didn't see this much versus Boston because of their coverages, but it's a way he forces defenders to commit to open up passing windows. Instead, the Celtics flooded the lane with a bunch of bodies, so Cade had to make early and fast passes out to these shooters, and that's what he did all night. Takes the mismatch right to the post, and another jump pass on a rope to a great shooter there. And I understand Boston's strategy. Make mediocre shooters hit shots to keep Cade out of the paint in pick and roll, because when he gets downhill with a partner and some space, he does stuff like that. And against another Boston curveball where the big quickly showed and recovered, he accesses space in the lane with that beautiful lob pass. And then there's the play of the game, again without any traffic in the lane. Come on. So Cade sees open space, throws a majestic delivery off the floor, placed vertically only for Duren, and that is a Hall of Fame level pass right there. Although, honorable mention to this sequence in the second, where Cade again shows that nose for the ball, beats Baylor Shireman to it. Maybe he has Duncan Robinson underneath there for a second, but instead just pretends to shoot it so someone will finally commit, only to slip it to Duncan. That is awesome. Cade's shooting is actually a legit weak point. He was over to Duncan. That is awesome.
What you got going on, my boy?
Cade's shooting is actually a legit weak point. He was 0 for 6 from 3 in this game, and he's in the bottom third of the league by percentages on wide open threes and pull-up threes over the last 3 seasons, although he is good from the mid-range, so nice counter in the fourth to bypass a 3 and get to a foul line floater. This was up there with the best defensive games I've seen from Cade. So when people reduce a player to his scoring stats or even judge a game by shooting numbers, they miss the majority of the value plays in the game.
Okay.
Just at a high level, playmaking, defense, and all the little things can be more valuable than scoring. Remember, being more efficient does add value, but being more efficient is not the only way to add value. Someone like Cade can have major impact when the shot is actually falling, and as this game demonstrates, he's good enough in all those other areas to have star-level impact, even on a terrible shooting night. To support this channel, patreon.com/thinkingbasketball.
Patreon.com. Yo, I fuck with it, bro. I fuck with it. I think Cade's gonna fall in that next generation. Like he's gonna be fire in that next generation. Like I said, bro, Cade and Wemby. I can't even think of names like that right now. But nah, they got potential for real. This Detroit team, bro, boy. I feel like every time Detroit is good, it's a defensive team, like a very defensive heavy team, bro. You know what I'm saying? I fucks with it. But anyways, like I said in the beginning, appreciate everyone giving me the 2,000 subs, 10K, 2026. I'm up out of here though.